I first heard of your work from my father, God bless his soul, when you were on Laugh-In through reruns, and you were incredible on the show. Just way ahead of your time. The whole show itself also light years ahead of anything else that was going on. What are a couple of fun memories you have while working in that environment? Yeah.
Oh God! Well, you know, it's like being on. It's in those days. If you were on a hit show, there were only 3 networks. I mean, you were just Fox wasn't even around, for at least not that I recall. So we were, and I didn't go on Laugh until the 3rd season. I came in mid-season, the 3rd year, and I introduced Ernestine, and that just catapulted me. It was amazing. I mean, I wasn't popular; she was, and people didn't even know I was her. So I'd stop. I mean, I'd be back home in L.A. and I'd be in the supermarket or something, and I had appeared as myself in other parts, and they'd say, "Oh, you're that new girl on Laugh-In," and I'd be real kind of modest and everything, and then they'd say, "And who is that girl that does the telephone operator? She's hilarious." And I said, "I do the telephone operator," you know, and they'd just be terribly surprised and somewhat pleased, but, you know, it was just so separate from me. And I went out on the road with Dan and Dick. But anyways, memories, the biggest thing is, you know, Artie was very fond of taking off his clothes. And we were playing like a scene on the desert, you know, where everybody's, "Oh, water, water." And he's like taking off his clothes slowly, piece by piece. And you'd have to go out there and stop him, you know, to finish the sequence and all that stuff. And the best part thing was we had a book, the script of an episode, and Carolyn Raskin was the producer. She did all the really tough assembly work of the show and all that, keeping the records of, because we would have people come in like Johnny Carson or Marcello Mastroianni or anybody in the world would come into the studio, and we would start shooting blackouts with them, you know, just one-liners, and the kids on the show would run downstairs and change clothes, run back up in another turtleneck or something, and they'd have to, and then the writers would be there writing lines, and you'd just go and do the crossover and blah, 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 and it was just a madhouse. And so they would get a big stack of one-liners that they could insert in any show. And Carolyn used to keep all that up in a script on a podium, up in the middle of there was no audience, but there was room for an audience, but it was empty. And Henry Gibson set fire to the script one day. He just went over and lit a fire to it, and it was that was hilarious in retrospect.
Wait. He just like walked up to the script and lit it up?
And lit it on fire, and it burned up.
But why?
Just to be mischievous. You know, just to act up, just to be. We did a thing one time. We were painting a big mural on pieces of paper, huge pieces of paper, and we got to throwing the paint at each other and everything. And then we decided to go in the control room, and we started running for the control room. And all the executives just ran, and they went to lock the doors because we would have thrown the paint on the machinery. I mean, we were just so full of ourselves. I mean, I wasn't that full because I was new to the show, but the other kids were really full of themselves. You know, it was just incredible. When I first went on the show, and I didn't air for like 8 or 10 weeks or something, and I just wanted to have someone to eat lunch with. The other kids were big stars, Artie and Joanne and Ruth, and you know, the kids on the show were really huge hits. And so,
as Gloria, Emilio, Alex, thanks so much for stopping by AOL Build. It's a true honor. I saw on your feet one of the most beautiful love stories I've ever seen. Congratulations to all of your success. This question goes out to the 3 of you. What are you most proud of the end product of the show?
You want to start, Alex? Or? I guess what I'm most proud of is I sit there. My daughter is 5 years old, Amalia, and she's now seen it 7 times. She does, and you ask her what her favorite part, she's like, bus crash. And she met Gloria. Gloria asked her, she's like, what's your favorite part? My daughter's like, bus crash. Gloria was like, not so fun for me, but okay, whatever. But when I sit in the audience with her and I sit in the middle there's this box up on the right side where I hide away. It's one of those theater boxes, but nobody sits. So I sit there so I can watch the audience and the show, especially doing previews when you're measuring it. And I think when you see, Gloria mentioned it before, I think that there's a lot of laughter. I think everybody, the music, you see people moving the thing. But also we get gasps and we get cries. And there's one moment that I'm proud of, which is a monologue I wrote for Emilio based on his spirit, where he looks at a record producer and the guy says, you can't record in English, you're not going to do it. And he says, look, for 20 years I paid my taxes, I've done my thing. I don't know where you think I live, but this is my home, and you should look very closely at my face because this is what an American looks like. And the audience spontaneously applauds, and if you try to write spontaneous applause, it comes out as grandstanding, so you never know that's going to happen, but every single night he says that, and I think in the day and age of politics that we have right now, that line resonates, and every night they spontaneously clap. So I'm really proud to have filtered down Emilio's sort of view on the world into a monologue that seems to resonate with audiences, and that's my favorite moment.
I think for me, I'm extremely proud that 90% is Latinos for different parts of the country. We didn't have to change our last name. We got no pressure to be who we are, and I'm proud that with the diversity in this country is what makes this country incredible. Absolutely.
And for me, as well, as Alex says, you know, when I talked to Anna before we started the process, and I said, I wrote her a note actually that I left in her dressing room, and I said, there's going to be moments where you think, what the hell did I get myself into? Because 8 shows a week, respect to Broadway, I always did. I've been a big fan and follower, but when you see what they actually do, these performers on Broadway, they are triple threat, singing, dancing, acting 8 times a week. Nobody else does that. No pop star, no opera singer. There is no other entertainer or musician that does as many shows as the Broadway community does to entertain everyone that comes to New York for Broadway, because Broadway is one of the big draws. And I told you have the opportunity to inspire someone in that audience every night. Not just stand up there and entertain them, which is good and it's a given, you're gonna do that. But you have the opportunity to change some minds, to give them new ideas, to empower them maybe to take up a dream that they didn't, you know, that they had given up. Or maybe they've had a situation with a family member and maybe it reminds them, let me fix this, because things can change at a moment's notice. And then how are you gonna feel if you left that unsaid or undone or didn't fix it? So to me, the most beautiful thing, like Charlie Chaplin says, it's hard and beautiful to make people laugh, but to make people cry, if you do both, you're doing an incredible job. And they do that every night in that show, because everybody that comes out tells me, oh my gosh, you made us laugh, you made us cry, you know, we had such a good time. And then they dance at the end, because we want to leave them happy. We don't want to leave them on a downer or in a difficult, serious moment. So I think we've accomplished that.